Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Tchaikovsky.
Hello, hello.
And we have an awesome special guest for you today, Scott Catamas. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, good to see both of you again.
Great to see you, too.
Awesome to have you on with us. Thank you.
And we have some awesome viewers that we'll just say a quick hello to. Hey, Kaylee. Welcome. And we have Nalani. Hey, Ethnicity. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to jump right into our weather forecast, as we usually do. And so we have the Schumann, which is, it's between 11 and 22. That was today. So you can see, though, on the weekend, we had quite a blast here. So it's been really intense in terms of the energy coming in there. The solar flares have been pretty quiet, actually, but the KP index has been fairly high. We had some of that, those storms coming in. And so that's made things a little, fun. Jen.
Transits.
Transits.
All right, guys. So we're going to be feeling a shift today. So you might be feeling it depending on where you are at different times throughout today into tomorrow. But we are shifting into the gate 6. Now, the gate 6 is the gate of conflict or the gate of friction. In the gene keys, we're looking at moving from the shadow of conflict to the siddhi of peace through the gift of diplomacy. And so the energy here is meant to help us be able to move through conflict, not necessarily to get stuck in it. So I know that sometimes I talk about the shadow of these things and we go, because we think that that's the energy that we're going to have. But we want to make sure that we recognize that this is giving us an opportunity to shift that energy. One place I read, and it talked about how the gate is here to help us turn up the dial on the energy of the archetype of the peacekeeper. And this is Christine, and what she was talking about is this ability for us to be able to notice, what is it that I actually want to put my energy towards? What kind of change do I want to bring about? And what can I let go of? What conflicts or what issues are really not worth putting my energy into? Right. So at that heightened frequency in that siddhic level, we're looking at peace. And it's really that ability to allow ourselves to just sit in a place where we're able to. Richard Rudd talks about this ability to rebuild the Garden of Eden, right? This pillar of light, to be able to be in that place where we are able to know that everything is okay. And right now we know that in the world, things are a little all over the place. And we're in that middle ground where things are not so okay all the time. But the idea here is to look at it and go, this is where diplomacy comes in, to look at it and go, okay, what is actually worth my energy? And what do I want to put my energy into? What is it that I can actually facilitate change with and use my energy in that way? And everything else that is that low frequency energy, I'm going to release back to the universe and go, I know you've got this. That helps us with that diplomacy, and that helps us to bring in that peace energy, because in that moment, I'm only looking at the things that I have an ability to impact. And all of the rest of it, I'm sending love to. And this is how we allow ourselves to move from that shadow of conflict into that siddhi of peace. So if you notice this coming in, if you notice this, the victim state around this is with emotions, and that can show up as either over attentive or tactless. So depending on which way we kind of lean. So if you're realizing that everything is setting you off, if you realize that it's overwhelming and you feel like, okay, there's just nothing I can do. If you find yourself maybe saying things and going, oh, I probably could have said that better. We probably could have addressed that a little bit differently. Can I get a do-over? I think that this is a great energy to allow yourself to have that space. And the same with somebody else. If somebody comes at you and brings that energy forward, to be able to not jump into the conflict of it, but really try to hone in on that path of peace. What is it that I can do right now in this moment to not feed the conflict, but have that diplomacy and say, okay, what is it that we need right now to be able to come back into cohesiveness? Because that's going to bring about the peace.
So this is bringing all of our silent observer stuff online, right? In order to be able to do that, being able to step out of that drama triangle and observe what's happening instead of jumping into the conflict.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is such a great gate to be in, Scott, to have you on, because your work with the Global Peace Tribe is exactly this. It's about bringing cohesion to people and helping everybody to see where they can have an impact and how they can bring love and peace forward. So why don't you share with us a little bit about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate what you've just shared. And a couple thoughts. One thing that's important to recognize, I'm going to give a little biology lesson. When all of you are watching, when your father's sperm successfully fertilized your mother's egg, and you began your embryonic journey, you, like all of us, the very first thing that's formed in the first 24 hours, what becomes the reptile brain. It's the oldest part of our body. It's also anthropologically ancient. It's not very different from what the dinosaurs had. So literally what happens is what becomes the reptile brain is formed. The brain stem forms around it, and the body eventually comes in. So what's the purpose of the reptile brain? Safety. So we are biologically designed at the deepest level to feel safe. How does that show up as we grow up? Well, once we are fully bodied, we've got this little reptile brain part of our brain, in the back part. That's why I'm reaching back here. And the moment we perceive the possibility of attack, not attack itself, just the possibility of attack, the reptile brain sends a synapse and we choose fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You probably have all heard that before. But it's really important because in order to take that sacred pause that Jennifer was talking about, we need to manage our reptile brain and not get abducted by our reptile brain. Now, back for our ancestors, the reptile brain was really valuable because our ancestors were in constant survival. But we're not anymore. We're blessed. We're living, for the most part, I mean, almost everybody watching this does not have to worry about animals trying to eat them or neighboring tribes, coming down and invading the village. So we're very blessed. But our reptile brain can still get triggered by somebody's tone of voice, their body language, their choice of words, or even just the volume of their voice. Like all it takes is Jennifer. Your brain, right? So,
that wasn't even me, and I was triggered. I'm kidding.
So one of the things that I recommend is, okay, we all know if you really want to create peace in the world, we have to start with ourselves. We have no control over what Trump or Putin or any of those guys do, really. We don't. I mean, we can pray, but we don't have control. But we have total control over learning how to manage our own reptile brain and to choose that sacred pause. But we have to know, what are my triggers? And in specific relationships, because let's face it, our biggest difficulty is not the person at the grocery store. The biggest difficulty we have is with our wife or our ex-wife, our spouse or our ex-spouse, or our kids or our parents or our family members, the people that we're really close to. So in In the well, they all
Yeah, sometimes ourselves. We
So-
can be our own worst enemy.
in relationships that are challenging, take the time to journal. What are my triggers? What are the things that this person says or does that's my kryptonite, where I'm vulnerable? So that you're conscious that when that person says or does the thing, it might be their choice of words or their tone of voice or their body language, know where is it that I'm going to interpret that as an attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for us, because you're right, ultimately it's all an inside job, but we are all sacred mirrors and we're all in a relationship and we're all getting triggered by somebody or some bodies. So if we want to create peace in the world, if we want to have that sacred pause, we've got to do the homework to know what our triggers are. So maybe we should change tonight's show from Twillow Talk to Trigger Talk.
Trigger talk.
Today's episode is Trigger Talk.
Welcome to Trigger Talk.
Does that make sense to both of you?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk so much on the show about becoming the observer and taking the time to notice what's going on inside of us. And, you know, this whole idea of conflict always starts within the moment that we get that trigger. Right. And so it's very easy for us to go, oh, well, you did this or you said that, or Scott, you just yelled at me and now da 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 da. Right. But it's not the fact that you even yelled. It's if I had something inside of me that went, that's not okay. That's what causes that conflict to come out of me. And so, you know, there was a thing that went by and I loved it. You know, we have all these stories on social media and stuff. And this one was, you know, if you're carrying a cup of coffee and somebody bumps into you, you spill your coffee. Why did you spill the coffee? And most of the time we go, well, because so-and-so bumped into me. And it's like, no, you spilled coffee because you had coffee in your cup. If you had tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea. If you had water in your cup, you would have spilled water. Because when people bump into us, it's not because they bumped into us that something mean or inappropriate spills out of us. If that's what we're carrying inside with our triggers, that's what's going to spill out. If we have an insecurity inside of us and somebody bumps into us, that's what's going to spill out. If we have confidence within us, that's what's going to spill out. And so we realize that what you're talking about in terms of noticing these triggers, it's so important because it really is that first step to being able to bring about peace, is knowing what it is within us that's going to spill out. And can I work on that?
Beautiful. Absolutely.
And getting in touch with your own body, because, you know, we often don't even feel it. People spend a lot of time just going through the motions and they don't feel those triggers in the body, because that's, of course, how we experience our emotions. So they don't feel that, like, they just kind of ignore it. And that's when things can kind of build up a little bit.
That's where we have to slow down, feel what's going on. There's a wonderful question actually in the chat box. Hypnicity wrote, I feel pretty powerless lately. I believe love is all that matters. Will that belief be enough? Now you'll notice I'm love coach Scott Catamas. I make my living running the Love Coach Academy. I train other people how to use the tools of love to create better relationships. I'm all about love. And love is not enough. It's not. Doing things with love is essential, but we actually need tools. We can't just build a house by, wow, I would love to have a house here. You actually got to get the lumber and get the tools. So to go from feeling powerless, for example, since that's a really vulnerable, and I appreciate your honesty about that. Then you need tools. And so let me give you a couple tools. For starters, what are the things that you do have power over? One thing you have power over is gratitude. We can always be grateful. Another thing is, who can you be of service to? Who in your world can you provide a service to? when we provide a service for someone who's maybe even less fortunate than we are, we feel really wonderful. It's a good way to shift. When we are grateful for the blessings of our life, that shifts our energy. We are powerless about many things. Like I said earlier, we're powerless over what Trump or Putin or those people do. But we're not powerless over the thoughts that we choose to run and the choices that we make in terms of actions in the world. We get to choose what we're going to eat today. We get to choose where we're going to put our attention. We actually have power in those ways. And we also have power in how we choose to treat or be of service to the people in our orbit, even if it's just smiling or thinking of someone who might be feeling lonely and reaching out to them, send them a text message or a Bitmoji or even a phone call. So I'll stop there, and I'd love to hear what Jennifer and Denise have to say, because this is a really beautiful question.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love what you shared there, because I think it is so important that we look at love and we think love is this, rainbows and lollipops and everything is lovely, but love is tough. And sometimes love, is about taking a stand. Sometimes love is about speaking our truth, even when it's hard. And so in that way, if we actually embrace all that love is, and then to your purpose, Scott, then act on that, do something with it, then it's got its power. But just as an idea, as an ideal, that doesn't resolve anything, that doesn't solve anything, that doesn't allow us to move through anything. And I think that there is time where we have to pour that love even into ourselves and go, I deserve to do this thing for myself. And that allows me to move into something different. So to what you were saying, being able to be of service to somebody, when we get into that place of, okay, love is enough, I think that there's a complacency that sometimes comes with that. And that isn't going to help anybody, and it's definitely not going to help us. But if we can come into a place where I go, okay, if love is enough, then what would love tell me to do in this moment?
I love that. Yeah.
Right? And then move from that place.
That's a really good one. Denise?
Yeah. So a couple of, a few weeks ago, I had a download all about lead with love and let love lead you. And it really spoke about the fact that we're programmed out of fear and all of this. And so love, we have to lead with love, meaning we're making decisions out of love. It's not necessarily that love is a solve everything kind of thing, right? It's definitely like it's a driving force. It's more of an action word, right? And so it's kind of like when we have love for somebody, where we need to tend that garden. We can't just plant and say, I love you, and plant the flower and just leave it be. We need to actually tend the garden to make sure that we're creating a good space for that love to be. And so there's action involved in love. I think that love as a concept is great, but we do need to move into that lead with love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to riff on that a little bit. One of my wonderful mentors, I was very blessed earlier in my life to have some amazing mentors. And one of them, probably my favorite teaching that he provided, was when we're making a choice, make sure it's a movement to what our wise self wants us to move toward, as opposed to a reaction to fear or pain. Because when we react away from fear or pain, our reptile brain is making the choice. And remember, reptile brain only knows fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Whereas when we're in alignment with our wise self, we've aligned our wise self, our higher self, our God self, whatever you want to call that, with our ego and personality, and we're clear on, I really am longing for this. This is where and when we're moving toward the longing of our wise heart, those are the choices that are the good choices that we go, that was a good choice. But when we react and make a choice that's a reaction, those are often the choices that are regrettable, that we go, God, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I take people through a practice, asking people, think of something you really, really regret that you did. And always, when we do something big that's regrettable, in that moment, we were in a desperate reaction. We were desperate to feel safe. We were desperate to be heard. We were desperate for love. We were desperate for respect. We were desperate for money, and desperate for to feel safe, which then causes all sorts of choices. Yeah. The person who pulls the trigger is desperate to feel safe. Right?
Yeah.
So, most of us, thank God, have never pulled a guns trigger, but we have pulled verbal triggers, right? So, but when we are centered and we're moving toward what we really long for, we never pull a trigger.
And that's that sacred pause that allows us to create space to make those decisions.
Exactly. We come full circle.
We did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you say full circle. In my work, I use a lot of ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. And one of the things that we have is a life map. And this is kind of my little version of it. But it's very much to what you just said, Scott. So what's important to us, but we often forget that when all of our stuff comes up, all those triggers come up and they get in the way. And then in order to avoid all of our stuff, that inner turmoil, we have these reactionary or not serving behaviors that make us go away from what's important to us. And so in order to navigate that, we need to just figure out, can I allow myself to sit with this stuff that's uncomfortable, stop running away from it, and be intentional so that I can then move towards that which is actually important to me. And so it's just a fun little kind of synopsis that allows us to see exactly what you're sharing in terms of the way that we react versus what it is to allow ourselves to be okay with being uncomfortable with those triggers, so that we can find the pause and go, okay, that really hurt me. I understand why. I realized that wasn't, maybe that wasn't your intention or your purpose. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I need. Can we come to that common ground? Because what's actually important to me in this moment is connection, as opposed to being right about something or, whatever it is that was coming up in that moment.
Oh, it's beautiful, Jennifer. That's right on. And that's a really beautiful short example of healthy self-talk. And again, slowing down and talking to yourself. What am I telling myself? What am I feeling? What am I needing? Right? And to really slow it down and do that process. That's what Marshall Rosenberg taught. He called it an emergency dose of self-empathy. And when we get triggered,
I like that.
What am I telling myself? Right? Because almost all unnecessary fights and arguments start with a reaction to an interpretation. You looked at me cross-eyed, therefore you don't really love me. While I was talking, you looked at your cell phone, therefore you don't respect me. Now I get to react. I'm off to the races. So what am I telling myself? What am I feeling? I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling disappointed. What am I needing? I'm needing to feel heard. I'm needing respect. I'm needing connection. So when we go from reaction to the projection of the other and drop into what we're actually feeling and needing, we give ourselves an emergency dose of self-empathy, and we get clear on what's really going on within us. We don't know what's going on with the other person. That's just what we think. But we can get in touch with what's going on with ourselves.
So how would the two of you help your client to understand what they're feeling? Because there's so many people that are so cut off from their feelings. How would you guys work with that?
Well, there's literally a list of feelings that I send to people, and I say, take a look, which of these emotions are going on for you. And also, it's sometimes good if people are cut off from their feelings. Then a very typical one is men have been raised from an early age, boys don't cry. And then that ends up being boys don't cry, they don't get confused, they don't feel sad, they don't feel scared, and so anger becomes the cover emotion for a lot of boys growing up who are now men. And so when one of those uncomfortable feelings that's not okay for a man to have comes up, they get angry because that's the cover emotion. So learning how to work with people on which of these emotions do you express and allow yourself to experience, and which ones do you stuff? So that's a lot of the work that I do with people, especially, as I say, with men. Jennifer.
Yeah, I love that idea of the feelings list. And the Center for Nonviolent Communication, you guys can look up their website. They have a beautiful feelings wheel that is matched with needs. And so they have all of the feelings that show up when a need is not met. And on the other end, they have all of the feelings that show up when a need is met. And so you're really able to look at it and go, what is the connection here? So maybe I don't have the ability to connect with the feeling, but this is what I want. So we look at that and go, okay, what are some of the feelings around that? The other thing that I like to do is bring in the somatics of it. Maybe I don't know exactly what the feeling is, but I know my chest is really heavy, or my stomach hurts, or my fists are clenched, or I'm feeling this weight on my back, and being able to really look at it and go, okay, maybe I don't know that I'm angry, but I'm feeling this tightness, right? So we begin to then understand how it's showing up in the body so that we can give awareness to it. And then we can name it, right? It's so important to be able to name it, but not everybody has that capability, especially to, Scott, what you were sharing is if you're not allowed to have the feelings, then you're not going to identify with them and you're not going to necessarily know what they are. Yeah. But I know that whenever so-and-so says something, I feel this like tightness or this heaviness, or I, curl into myself. If we can observe that, then we can begin to understand what's happening inside of us.
So it's really like this self-reflection, right? And that's something that we have to practice. I think if we're not used to doing that, we're just like go forward, go forward, go forward. We don't do that sort of self-reflection or the self-observation of I have this heaviness in my chest, or I do this and I don't even realize I'm doing it. There's all those sort of subconscious programs running in our head as well. For anxiety or for nervousness or, all of those things that we do in the body.
There's a lot of
full circle. The list of feelings that I use is from the Center for Nonviolent Communication. The mentor that I was referencing was Marshall Rosenberg, who was both my friend and colleague back when he was alive. And he, of course, is the founder of Nonviolent Communication. So it's all
awesome.
Cool.
It's a good resource there, guys. Perfect.
Well, we could continue with trigger talk, or I had asked, because I know a lot of the people who I believe watch this show are interested in consciousness, and there's some really interesting things going on in the world of government disclosure around UFOs and UAPs, which is where we reference them. And since you hadn't heard about that, I thought I'd share it with both of you at least, and I think your audience would find it interesting as well. So a longtime friend of mine and colleague is a man named Danny Sheehan. Danny is an extraordinary man. He's the attorney who always supports the little guy against the big whatever. He supported Karen Silkwood before she was murdered. He supported Daniel Ellsberg during the Pentagon Papers. He was the attorney for the indigenous people at Standing Rock. And he's currently the attorney for some of the whistleblowers who are coming forward about the government's hiding of UFO disclosure. And So Danny's on my show, The Awakening World, pretty frequently. And last Tuesday, there was a big event that happened on September 9th, in that there was a congressional hearing, which you can go back and you watch it, it's on YouTube, in which whistleblowers came forward and testified before Congress about some of what we actually has been repressed, which is very substantial, that there are downed UFOs that we have in our possession, and that the military-industrial complex is trying to keep this from the public because they want to reverse engineer these craft, then get patents on the new technology that they create, and then sell that technology back to different governments or to private industry at a very high profit. So that's actually what's now stopping UFO disclosure from coming forward. And some of the whistleblowers that have come forward have been castigated and have had lost their livelihood, lost their jobs. And back in the day, not recently, but back 10, 20 years ago, they often would lose their lives. But it's now coming forward before Congress. And fortunately, most people in Congress are just as curious as we are and are just as outraged, except for the ones that are under the financial control of the military-industrial complex that wants to keep this under wraps. But it's coming out, and it's coming out in a big way. And more, there's more and more congressional change happening, which is what's going to be necessary. So anyway, it was a very big event, and if you want to learn more about it, go to the New Paradigm Institute. That's Danny Sheehan's organization, newparadigminstitute.com, and you can read Danny's recap, and also write to your local Congress people asking for there to be full disclosure. But we're moving in that direction. It's moving slowly, but it's finally happening. And I've been in this field for 40 years. We've all been waiting for government disclosure. It is happening. So there's that little piece, which is all part about consciousness, because we, in group consensus reality, when we finally acknowledge, yes, there is a strong galactic presence, multiple species relating to the Earth, it is a spiritual awakening. And it is a big change in our sense of who we are in the cosmos, and hopefully will trigger some of the rapid change in consciousness we need to create a sustainable, holistic world, as opposed to the current unsustainable world that humanity is heading for the cliff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had been seeing some of that stuff with Stephen Greer earlier on, like last year, and I just didn't realize there was a big thing with the whistleblowers.
It's really worth going back and watching.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
I've known Stephen Greer way back in 1996 and 97. I was a producer on a television show called The Paranormal Borderline. It was a primetime series, and I was in charge of all the UFO stories. And I met Greer way back then. In fact, I introduced him to some of the people that became his key witnesses. And so I go, and Danny Sheehan and Greer and the people that are still alive that have been in, we go back a long ways. And it's finally happening.
I know Jen and I have been seeing a fair bit with our work with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, right, with Sylvain. So we've been doing, there's been a lot coming up, and there's more coming.
I think that's
concerned. So
I think that's how I met you.
It is. Yeah. That's how we originally met. And then through Beyond Being Human.
UFO oriented. So that's why I thought this would be an important piece of information for people that don't know about it. Really go to newparadigminstitute.org, newparadigminstitute.org. Really check out what's happening, or go to YouTube and just put in September 9th Congress UFO, UAP.
It'll come up.
Watch the 90-minute congressional testimony.
Very cool. Yeah. I know there's lots going to come, and of course people are waiting to see what's happening with the A1 Atlas as well.
Yeah.
With I know Avi Loeb, he was a speaker as well with us on the at the conference last year, speaking about the UFO UAP stuff that's been happening. He's the one that I think has brought that forward from Harvard, with the information that it's not a meteor, that
Right.
it's more than that. And
That's
so
the new one that they just, that's not the cigar shaped one.
no, this is more like it looks meteor-like,
Right.
but it's not behaving
Its
meteor-like.
trajectory isn't meteor-like.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
And I have heard through the grapevine that there may have been some contact with it in terms of, I mean, there's been lots of contact in terms of channeled contact, or Jen and I have both had experience with that in terms of contacting through telepathic communication, but I believe there was some scientific contact in terms of, information coming back and forth with a binary response coming from them.
Wow.
I can't confirm that. That's just like through the grapevine. So, don't quote me on that, but that is something that I had heard. So it'll be very interesting the next month and a half, 2 months coming forward.
And what's some of your channeled information, or who do you connect with in a galactic family?
Well, we're both part of the Federation as well. So Jen is on a council, right?
Yeah, I'm part of the Elders Council for the Galactic Federation, and that's through my past experiences. So recently I published a book, The Lyran Legacy, and it's actually my life as a Lyran that came back, and I was able to remember all the galactic history, all about the Orion Wars, what happened. And so the book gives the galactic history, then it also tells my life story.
For which I'm in it as well, because we've been together in many lifetimes. So
absolutely. But it was the unfolding of that, the remembering of that lifetime, that allowed me to step into my galactic role and to recognize that when I'm being called into these meetings, that I'm actually being called into them not just as, Jen in this lifetime, but I'm being called into them through the roles that I have had with them over lifetimes.
Yeah.
Well, and as most people probably know by now, we are multidimensional beings. And on one level, it's all happening simultaneously. It's one extraordinary moment in existence. Are you part of the same galactic council or family that Elizabeth April channels and connects to?
Well, I think there's a bunch of different councils, because I'm part of the Earth's Humanities Council with the Federation, but we get called into different meetings, because I've been called into one with the Arcturians and the Pleiadians, and there was one. I'm one of the people in Jen's book, and we played a role in sort of Federation stuff at that time, and so they called me into this meeting, and I was like doing that multidimensional thing, and I'm like, guys, they're asking me all these questions, but they're asking me as my Pleiadian self. I was like, guys, I got my human brain on. Hang on. I need to access info. Because you're talking about stuff that I know I should know, but I don't at this particular moment. So it's been quite an interesting, way to maneuver through this multidimensionality. So I don't know, do you know anybody else on your councils, Jen, to answer your question, Scott? I don't recognize anybody in terms of their human stuff.
I mean, I've recognized some people, say through the book, I've recognized their energies, and so we've been able to connect with them. And I really appreciate, Scott, that whole parallel thing. And Tanis and I have talked about that, how, being able to channel that aspect of myself, I guess is a better way of saying it. Being able to channel that aspect has actually changed how I show up here and now. And so there is that. As far as other people that are channeling messages, I'd have to connect with them and feel into that energy and see if that, resonates. But yeah, some of the meetings that I've been in recently, actually one of them is worth mentioning. So there was a meeting, generally speaking, it's the Galactic Federation that's meeting, and then the councils of that federation. But recently there was a meeting that took place, and it was a whole bunch of different galactic organizations. And so we had the Federation there. You had a few more that are similar to the Federation, but are not part of it. They've been in talks before. There were also some that were, sorry, that's the dog. There were also some that, like the Draconians were there, and the Greys and their alliance. And so there were all sides, kind of, and I say sides because they just have different ways of seeing the world. It's again, we don't have to go into the whole side thing like we do here as much, but there was a time where we were very much on opposite sides. But anyway, this meeting took place around the earth, and they were talking about, like, what is the next step and where are we meant to go? And I was blown away that all of these races that generally are never together. I mean, the Federation is thousands of races in and of itself that are always together, but this was beyond anything I had seen before, all together talking about Earth and what's going on here and what are the next steps. And so I do think that, as we move towards disclosure and as we move towards, possible actual interaction that's going to be more public, they're all coming together and going, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to move forward, and we have to be on the same page. Yeah. And this is a brand new thing because not all of them have been on the same page before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know that this meeting that I entered with the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, they were having this thing about, so Pleiadians were like, can we go down and help them now? Can we do that? And the Arcturians were like, no, we have a process here. We got to follow the process. And so, and then they were like, are you ready? And I'm like, well, I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm ready. So I don't know, where that's come from to that point in terms of that discussion, because this is certainly an escalation from that. This was about 6 months ago that I was in that meeting. I think the one more recent was more about that as well, about how we're bringing it forward. Definitely, I've had a couple of chats with Commander Ashtar about this, and they're bringing things into alignment so that they can support us, and they want to just sort of make sure that it's coming in at a pace that is not scary for humans, because they really don't want to create that mass fear coming in. So I think that's been a focus of some of the discussions, at least at the humanities level. So, yeah.
I know we need to wrap up a little bit early, but I wanted to make sure that we pulled our home play.
Yes, please.
We use Seeds from the Sacred Feminine, and of course, the cards that come out are as they are, but embrace a new idea. Fitting for our conversation today.
Yeah.
So I will quickly read that for us. Here we go. All right. Embrace a new idea. You came to experience your earth walk in a linear way, but today, grandchild, you need to be reminded of the non-linear natural order of creation. I know, you want to talk about it too. The sacred feminine path lies in the mystery and is circular in nature. Like the womb of creation, it is ever expanding. This can be very difficult for your human mind to understand. The 5 senses can convince you that you live only in the physical world. This is not true. The information gathered by your physical body makes it easy to forget the existence and wisdom of your spirit. The emotional and spiritual part of you knows the invisible realm of the sacred feminine, even if you can't see it, hear it, or smell it. Remember that your mind is of the Creator's mind. It is capable of embracing anything and everything ever conceived. You are wise and more than capable of grasping new ideas. Let go, feel and intuit the next step. See what happens if you release control and fall into the arms of the great mystery. When you allow yourself to trust in the sacred feminine, you will discover a whole new way of being.
Beautiful. Very much speaks to our conversation, as they often do.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where we usually, is there something coming up for you that you'd like to share, Scott?
Well, always. I do my show twice a week.
Yeah.
The show is called The Awakening World. It's always wonderful. We just on last Saturday night had an amazing tribute to the great man, Andrew Harvey, one of the great authors of our time. This upcoming Saturday night, September 20th, is our annual International Peace Week show. And we've got some wonderful elders, Chief Phil Lane, Jyoti Ma, who works directly with the Kogi people, Louisa Tish, Shauna Bluestar. So it's going to be quite a cross-cultural of elders from different cultures and traditions sharing the wisdom about peace. And then rock and roll on that same night with Cornflower, who's an amazing looping artist who people love. So definitely come join and be part of the Awakening World every week. We do shows every Wednesday and Saturday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time. And you can find out all about it by going to globalpeacetribe.com. globalpeacetribe.com. Exactly. Thank you for putting it in there. I appreciate that. Thank you. Join us.
It's also in the description below in all of these as well. So
Thank you.
Links there. So take a look at that. And Jen, you've got a big week.
I do have a big week. For those of you who are local, please come join me at Singing Pebble Bookstore in Ottawa. I'm going to be there for a Meet the Author book signing. So I would absolutely love, love, love to see your beautiful faces, get a hug, all that fun stuff. It's going to be from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And again, that's Singing Pebble in Ottawa.
Awesome. And I have the Galactic Shaman course, the first day starting again. We're starting a new year. Finished up the last one in August, and we're starting it on Sunday, which is a power-packed day astrologically. And so Galactic Shaman program is a year-long program where we learn a bunch of different galactic healing modalities, as well as how to do light language and communicate with our ET brothers and sisters and all of that fun stuff. So that's this next year is starting on Sunday. So check that out if that's something that is of interest. And then we have Twillow Talk again next Monday. So don't forget to come back and see us. Jen?
I think we might have something on Friday night.
Do we have something Friday as well? It's the following one.
Okay.
We have Galactic Gab on the 26th.
Right. And I thought this Friday we were doing our live card reading.
Oh, okay.
On my calendar.
We can do that.
Like and subscribe to all of our channels and you will get all of the stuff.
Exactly. Okay. Live card readings.
Thank you so much, Scott, for being with us.
It's great to see you again.
My pleasure. Good to see you both again. Thank you for this wonderful work that you're doing.
And thank you for all the work that you do as well.
Right.
Appreciate you very much. And we'll see you all next time on Twillow Talk. Take care now.